Hey, what is going on, everybody? Welcome back to another exciting and fascinating episode in the My Journal Fullstack series of videos on this channel here today. This video, we are going to finally take off the training wheels and start doing some real work for the big boys. Why don't we? Before I talk about exactly what we'll be learning in today's video, why don't I give a quick overview as to all of the fantastic things we've done in the last 5 episodes. And basically, in the very first lesson, we created an empty SailsMVC project using the terminal of sales, generate, and new application. And then once we had that app, we started creating some basic REST routes. Next thing we did was we started persisting data using the waterline tool. Pretty easy stuff with that. Once we had the REST API up and running, we started creating some HTML and iOS front-end applications to consume our REST API data with GET, POST, and DELETE requests. And the very last episode, I went over quickly on what exactly actions to routings are, how to write them, and what they look like. So make sure you watch that last episode because we'll be going over more about actions too in today's video. And it's very, very important that you have a somewhat of a basic understanding of exactly what's going on there. Okay, having said all of that, let's talk about today's lesson. And basically, we are going to start integrating some user authentication and also user login, which is one of the more important features for a custom backend solution, right? I think a lot of you guys are really curious about how this actually works. So we'll be going over that by creating a SailsMVC web application starter project. I'll show you how that is done in just a brief moment here. The next thing we'll do is once we have our web app and once we have user authentication, we'll start persisting the post objects this time with the actual association of the logged in user. Maybe this sounds a little bit confusing, maybe, but I'll walk you through this right now. First thing we'll do is I'm going to generate a brand new application using the sales generation tool, and we'll be using the web app instead. Okay, so before I go over how this looks like, let me clear the terminal and bring this guy into view. Maybe I'll drag this in the top right corner. Okay, we are now inside of my sales sandbox directory. It doesn't have very much. We have the old project right here, which we won't be using anymore. And what I want to do is I actually want to do this here. So ls, and I just want to say sales, generate a new application with new, and let's call this the My Journal and Web App LBTA. So make sure you can tell the difference between the two. Let's create this application now using a web app instead of the empty application. Hopefully this process should be pretty quick, but it's basically installing the node modules dependencies. And once it's done, you can type in a grand old ls and you'll see your project right here. Okay, now what I want to do is I want to open up a new window inside of Visual Studio Code. And let's see, let's open up this bad boy inside of Visual Studio. Let's go over here, click on that and hit the open button just like that. Okay, things are looking pretty awesome and pretty fantastic right now. Let me drag this in the corner so that you can see exactly what the heck is going on. So let's open this guy a little bit more here. Okay, so how exactly do we want to walk through what this application is going to come with? Well, you're gonna be pretty scared once I open up this controllers directory, right? So there's a lot of folders and files inside of this controllers, and this is exactly pretty much where all the routing and actions are happening. And the other thing that you might want to look at is the routes.js file. So just type in Command P and routes.js. You'll see all the routes that are pre-built using this web application. Again, this is pretty scary stuff. I think it took me about a week or maybe 2 weeks to fully comprehend exactly what's going on. But basically, what I'm going to do now is I'm going to launch this application inside of the terminal. So just type in nodemon, and it'll tell you that your server failed to start because 1337, this port has already been taken, which is not great, but you can fix this problem by going into config, and there is a local JS. Inside of here, I'm going to configure the port to be, let's say 1440, hit the save, and now it's going to restart and tell me that my app is on 1440. Okay, so let's open up a new tab here and say localhost of 144 and 0. Okay, this application right here is the brand new web app that was just created using Sales Generate. So really easy. And basically, this is the home page for your application at the root. If you look at what's going on down here, you can see that I am launching into the root, requesting user as a guest, and showing the landing page, which is why it looks like this, right? So briefly, you want to make sure you read what is being presented right here. This is a freshly generated application. And, essentially they tell you that the sales team, they've been working on a lot of customer client projects, and they actually find that they are rolling the same solutions over and over inside of their custom backend solution. For example, they are always building out emails, user login and authentication, and also building for a potential Stripe account. The main thing we'll be focusing on in today's lesson is going to be authentication. So we'll just ignore the emails and ignore the billing for now. Further down below, you want to scroll down and you can, maybe change the application name if you wanted to do so. So it says new app name here. And then down below that, we have the integration of email. So you want to make an email account on Mailgun and then start configuring this stuff there. If you want to maybe send out an email to confirm the account email for your users when they log in. So we won't be going through how to do that. This is actually pretty easy. So make sure to read that. And then here's some Stripe stuff, which is, we're going to ignore the Stripe information here. And then further down below, it'll tell you how to customize your application. Okay, so that's a quick overview as to what the application comes with. The first thing we will look at is to actually sign up as a new account. So I'm gonna hit sign up here. And when you're looking through this application, the thing that you have to really focus on is the actual output of the terminal down here. So basically, when I am clicking into either a login or sign up, it'll hit the route of /login and sign up. Obviously, makes sense, right? And to figure out what exactly these guys are doing, you want to look at the routes. So I'm going to look up the sign up route and show you how to debug and maybe figure out what the application is doing. I'm going to go to the routes right here, search for /signup. And so it turns out there's actually two. This is the actual post account. Up here is the actual route that points to entrance and view -signup. So let's look at the action right here. Remember, every action is located under a controller. So you want to see entrance is right here, and you have the view signup, which is this route. Okay, let me minimize this to get a little bit more space perhaps. Basically, whenever you hit the sign up route, which is this guy, sign up, you're going to be looking at this page here at the success right here. So success, we are looking at pages, entrance, and sign up. And down here is the actual function that handles the route. If you're logged in, so this means right here, you are going to be logged in. And if you're logged in, it'll just redirect you to the actual root route. But because I'm not logged in, it's going to send me over here. So why don't I log in as a particular user? I'm going to say Bill Clinton, bill@gmail.com, and enter your password. This doesn't matter what that is right now. Let's hit the create account, and you'll see that it actually hit a couple of different routes whenever I hit the sign up button. First, it went into the API v1 entrance signup, and this guy is pretty tricky, so let me walk you through this. Once the signup was successful, it sent me back to the root route, and then because I'm logged in, it sent me to the welcome page, which looks like this. The welcome page is not that interesting, it just comes up like that. You can open up a modal, hit the X right here. You can update your email and punch in some stuff here and update your email if you wanted to do so. This actually does work, but I will be ignoring that for now. You can go to account settings and it'll present you with more information that you can change. Okay, so what happens now is I want to show you exactly what the route is doing whenever you sign up. So let me show you that one more time. Hit sign out. You are redirected to login. Let's go sign up. Okay, now why don't we say Donald Trump, and let's say donald@gmail.com, a lovely president name, and let's say that, create account. And so again, we are hitting API, entrance, and sign up. Let's figure out what this is doing because it'll be helpful for you. And let's go to the, command P, routes.js, and look for that. So we are now hitting the, the route to entrance sign up, and this is located on entrance and sign up. So what I'll do now is I'll open up this guy again, go back to my controllers, and entrance and sign up is this particular route. Okay, so what is this guy doing? Well, why don't I shrink this down a little bit for some more space and maybe close out of that. Basically, the actual route of sign up. So, if you go to sign out and sign up again, you have this form that requires you to pass in the email address. So inputs email address, required password, required full name. And then down below are some of the exits on, let's see, success or maybe invalid or email already in use. And here is the function that actually registers your new user into the database. So let's quickly walk through what exactly this code is doing, because it might look a little bit scary right now, but it's actually not that bad. Okay, first thing it's doing is it grabs the email address from the inputs and turns it into lowercase. And then right here, as you can see, it's using waterline to create the user. And if you look at the models.js, so models, and you have your user right here, right? Has a bunch of user attributes on it, such as the email address, the email status, maybe the password is down here, and then the full name. And there's a ton of stuff that's associated with maybe password reset and a Stripe billing account right here. And that's basically your user attribute, or the attributes inside of your user. And so now what I want to do is go back into the signup.js route. And so let's see, we are going to create a brand new user, and it's going to pass in a couple of different properties. Obviously, the email address is right here. And then it's going to help you create a password using sales, helpers, passwords, and hash passwords. And it's going to use the inputs.password to actually fill in the hash. And so whenever you create a custom backend solution that stores user information, such as the password, you want to make sure that you hash the password and maybe provide some kind of salt value. You'll have to Google how to secure your user passwords to kind of understand what this is doing. But using one line of code, it does all the work for you. And then it'll store this user using that hash password, as well as the full name down below. I'm not exactly sure why they use the IP right here, but that's what they do. If you configure your application to verify email address, it's going to send out an email down here, but obviously we haven't configured it to do so. So it's going to ignore this stuff. If you actually punch in a user email that's already in use, it's going to intercept this, and then it's going to use the, let's see, the success, or not success, but the actual exits of email already in use. So it's going to throw this guy back at the user with status code of 409. And so let's see, also this guy as well, the invalid, if it's going to run into the usage error. And then at the very end, it's going to create this user and then fetch it and store it inside of the new user record. And then down below, we have enable billing features with Stripe, which is what we are going to ignore. And then down below with the new user record that you created, it's going to set something on the session called user ID. It's going to set it to the brand new ID of the user that you just created. So this is very, very important, because whenever we create the post objects, right? So the main point of today's lesson is to create some post objects and associate it with the logged in user. We're going to access the user's ID on the request and session, and then store the actual user ID along with the post object whenever we create it. Okay, so hopefully that's not that confusing, but you do have to look at the code a couple of times. Again, it took me a week or two to fully understand all of the code that's typed out inside of signup.js. Here's some other stuff about verify email address that we can ignore as well. And so once all of this is done, it actually sends you to the root route. And then the root route is over here. So let me go to routes.js again. And then so all the way up here is the root route. And then this root route is going to point to the action of view homepage or redirect, which is, let's see, controllers, and somewhere here, view homepage or redirect is this action. And so if you are logged in, which is what this bit of code means, it's going to redirect you to the welcome page. And that's kind of why you're at the welcome page again. Okay, so that is a lot of code that we just quickly went over. If you want to look at the sign up page, which is this guy, you want to make sure that you go into, let's see, what are we doing? So refresh that. And so somewhere down here, we are looking at pages and entrance sign up. So this is inside of views and pages and entrance and sign up, which is this form. So this is just some HTML mixed with some Vue.js coding. And basically it allows you to punch in your full name. So full name, email address, and choose the password. So basically this is the form that renders out this page right here. Okay, same thing actually goes for the login. So you can actually log in as your account. So bill@gmail.com, punch in the password, and you'll be now logged back into this account, bill@gmail.com. So this application right here, I do recommend that you use it, because it comes with a lot of important features. Obviously, user account authentication is super important. I really don't want to write my own solution, even though I have written my own user authentication solution. I feel that the actual code that comes with the starter project is a lot better. So do use this project and try not to rewrite all of this code yourself. It is a lot of work and you don't want to maintain this stuff because it does get problematic if you don't hash your passwords correctly, and this bit of code is doing it for you. So again, this is the project that you want to use if you don't want to type out all of this work yourself. Okay, so that was an extremely quick overview of the SailsMVC starter web application project. And now that you have somewhat of a basic understanding as to what it does, let's move on to creating some custom post objects and then associating them to the correct user whenever we log in as a particular user over here. So first thing I actually need to fix before we start doing that is, well, let me kind of show you a problem with the application. If I hit save, you can see that every time I hit save, it actually restarts the application down here, right? And the thing that I noticed is that when it restarts, it actually kicks you out. So let me refresh here. And it kicks you back out to log in. And so you have to actually punch in your password. So this is kind of problematic and it's kind of annoying to deal with. So let me show you how to fix this now. Basically, you have to configure SailsMVC sessions. And so you might land into this page right here. And then somewhere down below, it'll tell you about advanced session configurations. And then it'll also go through how to use Mongo as the session store, which is exactly what we'll be doing. First thing you'll have to do is to install Connect Mongo. You want to make sure to use this one, version 110. So let's go ahead and copy that. Go down below, Control C and Control V or Command V to paste that in. It's going to now install this and save it as a dependency. And now what you can do is hit nodemon again. And all that's left for you to do is to punch in adapter connect Mongo and also the URL. And the way you actually do this is to go inside of the sessions JS file. So instead of config, we have sessions.js, and somewhere down here you have your secret as well. So make sure to read the comments. I find these guys really helpful to help me understand why they do things the way they do. Somewhere down here, you want to include this adapter line and also a URL. So I have this already set up. And so let me just copy this right here and I will paste this guy right below here. It doesn't matter so much. But basically, we have the adapter, the URL as this guy right here, and then the collection of sessions. So if you're not used to MongoDB and the database structure, make sure to kind of familiarize yourself with it. But basically, I went to MLab, which is right here. So let me show you my MLab console. And so, go to MLab, log in as an account. And what you can do is you can create a particular database from this dashboard page. So just hit create new and go through this step, click that and maybe click that, right? So I've already done that and it helps you create a database right here. So this is the one that I'll be using. And so just click into that and make sure that you go down below. There should be a users tab. So users and create your users right here. And then once you have that, it tells you to connect to it using this URL, which is what you're seeing back there. So you can either create your own or maybe use mine. It doesn't really matter so much, but basically we can close out of that and close out of that as well. So I feel like there's going to be a couple of thousands of people using this right here. So it's probably going to break down eventually. So make sure to create your own. That's probably the solution that will last a little bit longer. So that's my username and password. It's a pretty simple stuff there. And now what you can do is you can save your project, right? And let's see, I am currently logged out because previously it kicked me out. I'm going to log in as, let's say, bill@gmail.com. 123, hit sign in. And now you see that I'm logged in, right? So if I hit save, it should restart the application. And if I refresh again right here, you see that I'm still logged in as the account of bill@gmail.com. So make sure to apply this fix because we'll be restarting our application quite a bit in today's lesson. Okay, so let me just minimize this a little bit, maybe somewhere right here, and minimize Visual Studio Code to get some space like that. Okay, next thing we want to do is I'm going to go back to routes.js, and this is my brand new project, right? So we don't have access to the previous page that we created. So let me show you what the previous page looks like. So right here, we have the home page, right? Looks like this. We can create posts using this form, and it'll list out the post objects down below. So what I want to do is I want to take that page from my previous project, which is right here. And so we have the actual view, and we have home EJS. This is the actual form that we created, right? So remember, we did this in a couple of lessons ago. So I'm going to copy that and just drag that into this pages directory. So I'm going to try to drag this and paste it in here. So now we have home EJS. The other thing I want to copy is the actual route that loads that page. So let me go inside of here. So we have post, create, and delete. I am going to grab all of that and put it inside of controllers. So grab this, put it inside of controllers. Hopefully I can do that, but it doesn't look like I can. But basically what I'm going to do is I'm going to try to recreate this project over here, which is not that bad. Let me just click inside of here. I'm going to create a model object for posts. So instead of creating it, I'm going to drag this inside of the models like that. So now is our post object that we had before. And let's see, we also have the routes.js. So I'm going to go inside of here and say routes.js. And so right here, this is the actual route that we're loading that home page form with. So let's go to routes.js right here and just paste it somewhere down here. It doesn't matter where you put it exactly, but we'll paste it right here and maybe hit a comment as well. Okay, so now you can save. And if you try to hit this, I don't think you can actually hit it. So let me do this as well. So last thing I'll do is I'm going to create the post. So new folder, and let's say post right here. And this way I can actually punch in these files. So let me go over here, and these are the 3 files that I want. So let me just go over here and drag it into the post, and there we go. Looks good. Now that's all that we need inside of our project. So basically copy the previous files that you had and put it inside of this new project here. And let me just maybe drag this out of the way to make it less confusing. Okay, so if I try to access home, which is this route right now, you can try to access it, but it's not going to allow you to do that. So home looks like that. So let's kind of see if we can actually log in as bill@gmail.com, 123 123, and sign in. And so it takes you to the welcome page. So let's see what home does. And so actually you can access your home using this route right here. So everything is looking pretty good, right? This is what we had in the last couple of episodes. And let's try to actually create something using AAA and BBB. Let's hit the submit, and you see that it is actually forbidden. So the reason why that is because we haven't set up the route to actually hit the creation. So let me drag the other project back into place here. And let's go back to, let's see, routes.js. And I'm going to take these guys right here. So let me take this and paste it inside of here as well. I don't think I need the find by ID one. And so that looks okay. I don't think I need this either. Okay, so I'm going to hit save one more time. Drag this guy back out of view and try to hit the submit button right here. It's also hitting the forbidden. So why is it hitting the forbidden, you might be asking, right? Because this form right here is inside of, let's see, post EJS. So is it home EJS? Let's see, home EJS. This guy is hitting the route right here. So it's /post with the actual post method like so. And it's actually giving you a forbidden, which is not great. So the reason why it's doing that is because inside of your routes.js file, so routes.js is trying to hit this, but is not able to do that. And so the reason why it's not able to hit this route and why it's presenting a forbidden right here is because of something that's happening inside of security.js. So CSRF protection should be enabled for this application. You want to make sure to load this page right here. So you can load this page with command click, and they tell you exactly what this cross-site request forgery is. Basically, it's a very, very important aspect of security, but it's a little problematic for us inside of this demo video. So what I'm going to do is you can actually disable this guy by using false like that. And so obviously you don't want to do this, right? So for demo purposes, we will disable CSRF. And so we can now hit this refresh right here. It should give me what I want. So let me just hit back right here and say submit. And so let me try to save my project and reload. And so you can see it is now hitting OK instead of the previous forbidden. So I can just reload my page right now. And you'll see that it actually created that post object right here. So things are looking a lot better. There's another way to get around this CSRF thing, but I think this will make our video a lot easier to record. Last thing we need to do is I'm going to go back to my route inside of post. So let me close out of that. And let's look at the create route, because this is the route that we're hitting whenever we hit this create button right here. So inside of the function, we are logging this guy out, and then we are creating the actual post object using the title, which is this guy on the left, and then also the body is on the right there. Now, instead of just creating it like this, we are going to make use of the current logged in user's ID. And again, you can say constant and user's ID is going to equal to this.request.session.user_ID. Again, they set this up whenever you log in or sign up as a new user. And so once you have this, I'm going to log this out. So console log and user ID. So you can log this out right now and hit the submit right there. Again, you'll see that I am currently logged in as user ID at number 2. Something else that you can log is maybe the this.request.me as well. So let me hit the save one more time and hit the back and hit the submit one more time. You'll see that the me object is the entire user right here. So created at, ID, email address, and you probably shouldn't be printing out the password, or it's actually hashed like this. So maybe that's a little safe. And there's also a bunch of different other properties that exist on your user object. So that's kind of how we are going to persist our user post with the ID down here. So I don't exactly want to see this print statement anymore. So I'm going to comment on that. And the last thing I need to do is whenever I'm creating a post object, right, I'm going to add an additional property on this post right here. So how exactly do I want to do that? Well, there is something special about Waterline that allows you to map objects using a one-to-many or many-to-many relationship. And the way this is going to work is every time we create a post object, right, we're going to somehow associate it back to a user. And the way this works is through associations with SailsMVC. And you can imagine we're going to create a lot of these post objects for this particular user, right? So what I'm going to do is I'm going to create a many-to-one relationship from the post objects to a particular user. And the way we create a one-to-many or a many-to-one is to go inside of your actual post object right here. So all you have to do is you want to add a new attribute on the post object. I'm going to call this the user, and it doesn't matter what you call this. You can call this owner as well if you want to do that. But this guy, you want to specify the model of user like that. So it's going to point back to this user object. And then we are now going to save our project. So save it. Everything should be okay. You can refresh this right now. You'll still see these posts right here. Okay, so now that we have this one extra attribute on the post model object, you can now go back to the creation, which is right here. And so the last thing I'll add is down here, I'm going to say user and user ID. So we don't want to save the actual entire user object, just the user ID like so. And now you can hit the save and it's going to restart. And every time we create a object right now, so let's see, this is a post and associate it with user. All right, so submit right here and you can see the OK and hit the back and you'll get somewhere right here. So that looks pretty good. We don't exactly want to see these posts anymore because they're not associated to the current user. So this is the only one that has the user ID right now, right? And the way we are going to fix this is to go back to the home route. And this is the home route that lists this entire page. And we are passing the all post object to the actual home page and doing the for loop. The way we are going to fix this is to make sure when you execute the post.find, you want to introduce some criteria inside of here. So this criteria is going to look like this, user, and we need to specify the user ID. Again, it is the user ID equals this.request.session.user ID, and just use the criteria right here, hit the save. And now the only post objects that will come back is going to belong to the particular user that you're logged in as. And so I'm going to hit the refresh here. And you see we actually run into an error. So let's kind of see what the error is down here. So 500 cannot read property of session of undefined. So sometimes I find that you can't exactly access this stuff. So I believe this right here, when you're writing a classic route, you don't have access to this request, but it's just request like so. Okay, so I'm going to save my project one more time and hit the refresh. This should fix the issue. Okay. And now you see that this post right here is the only post associated with the current user. Now, if you create another object, so ABC and DEF submit, it's going to go to that OK page and refresh. And now this post is also showing up. If you want to fix the creation, so every time you hit create, it is not doing very much. Maybe I'll execute a redirect here. So I don't exactly want to do the return, and maybe just say this.res.redirect and say /home like that. Okay, so this hopefully should work. Every time I create something, it's going to load it and reload this page here. So reload this page because we are redirecting on create. Okay, hit submit. We are going to redirect, and now we have this guy down here. So that looks pretty good. If you want to order your post objects in descending order, you can do something to make sure that the ordering is correct. But maybe I'll leave that for another lesson. What you can do now is you can actually log out of this account. So I'm going to hit account and sign out. I'm going to log in as a different user, right? And so logging in as a different user, I should not be able to see these post objects. So let's see settings. We are logged in as bill@gmail.com. I'm going to sign out now, and I'm going to go ahead and use the actual user of Donald@gmail.com. And let's see, let's log you back in and log in, and we are in the welcome page. You can go to home right now, and you see that the Donald user does not have the post that we created as the Bill Clinton user. So I am the president, and I like to tweet silly things every once in a while. Okay, we are going to submit that. It's going to create this with the Donald Trump account user ID. That's why every time I log in as this user, right, I can see only these posts right here. Let me prove this to you by going and signing out and then signing back in as the Bill user. So bill@gmail.com and punch in a password to make sure the password is correct. I'm having a hard time typing in 123 right now. But once I hit that, you can actually send the redirect somewhere else if you wanted to. And maybe I will do that to, make things a little bit quicker. You can actually change the redirect on view homepage or redirect. You can change this to /home or whatever you want. It doesn't matter. So I'm going to refresh. So what you do is you hit the homepage right here. It's going to redirect you to home now. Okay, so now that I'm logged in as the Bill Clinton user, you can see all the posts were previously created as Bill, and we are not seeing the Donald Trump posts. So everything looks pretty good right now. All right, so I think I'm going to end the lesson right here. I think we went over quite a bit in today's video. So I'm going to let you go, but one thing that you might be curious about is the actual session management and how the session is actually kept in play every time you log in, right? So one file that you might want to look at is under hooks right here. So we are in API and hooks. There is one custom index.js file. And this guy is pretty much where all the magic happens. It helps you load your application, sets up some of the hooks that appropriately manage things like the secrets and mailgun secret. And then somewhere down below, I was looking at this a little earlier, but for every route that you hit, there is a before right here, and it executes a lot of code to figure out if you're in some kind of environment. And then it also figures out if the user is logged in. If they are logged in, they set the request or the ID to be request session user ID. And so there's a lot of magic that is occurring inside of this page. So make sure to look it over. I think it, again, took me a while to figure out how to even read this code. But once you understand it, it should be a lot better. Another thing that you might want to focus your attention on is there is something called a policy on your application. So let's go over, let's see, policies. There is something called an is logged in policy. So if the request.me, if this object is the logged in user, so basically if you're logged in, right, then proceed. Otherwise, you'll get this unauthorized, and then it'll throw you back into the login page. And so that's kind of what it does. If you are a super admin, it kind of does the same thing right here. So the other file that you want to look at as well is this policies.js. So the way that everything is configured right now, you have to be logged in to access everything inside of your website. That's what this star means. So star means a wildcard for everything in your app. And then if you are not logged in, it's going to kick you back into the login page. That's basically how the app works. And what you can do is, if you want to bypass the logged in, you can introduce the entrance, and everything under entrance is going to bypass the login. And the same thing goes for the rest of these pages right here. So for example, if I log out and if I'm not logged in, I'm going to, let's go to the homepage right here, right? So I'm not logged in, and it doesn't make any sense to show the home post objects if I'm not logged in. So that's kind of what policies are meant to be used for. Again, there's a lot of code that you have to look through and to kind of process in your brain before you kind of understand how the application is stitched together. But once you get a good understanding, you should be okay, and you should be able to move on and progress further with what you want to do with your custom backend solution. All right, so that's it for today's super long video. Hopefully you enjoyed it. If you want to get the source code for this entire web app, you can download it using the source code link below. If you have any questions, make sure to leave that down below as well, and I will see you in the next lesson. I think I'll start configuring the iOS application to actually log in as the Bill or Donald user, and then we'll talk about how to load the session using the iOS app as well, which is also pretty easy. I'll see you in the next video. Bye-bye, guys, and ciao.